Hi everybody. This is Teacher Eduardo, and I decided to do a video to answer the questions for the Jigsaw technique. So here are my answers then to the questions that were posed in the document. So the first question was, how do you learn vocabulary best? And one of the subtopics would be where you were unable to remember the words after class. The thing is, last semester, I began to learn German, so I had a lot of situations where I had to learn vocabulary, and a lot of the stuff that is here in the questionnaire actually happened to me. So for the first one, the situation where I had a really difficult time learning vocabulary was when the teacher gave us way too much. Specifically for German, I remember the articles. Man, those were hard. Not so much that they were hard, but it's just that there were so many, and there were so many variations with the nouns, because in German they do have the genders. So that was really a problem, and I really had a hard time with those. So, okay, moving on. And where you remembered what you learned, but were unable to repeat the words. I believe that the situations where I had that was where I did dedicate time to repeating the words individually, but never was in the situation to actually apply them. And after a while, I just could not produce them, or I would forget the words, or simply that, just could not get a chance to use the words that I have practiced on for so well, that like I did cards, I did like my own games, but never was in that chance, So finally, where you had the good retention and were able to transfer, which is also a little bit connected to the letter B, what helped you retain? I found that in my attempt to learn German as a beginner was in my everyday life. Obviously, there's nobody here to talk German with, so I had to talk to myself a lot. But I also needed people, that social connection that we make, which is the purpose of language. So what I would do is, I would, when I arrived at a place, I would say, hi, good morning. But in my head, I would repeat, guten Morgen. So, and then if I made a question in my native, then I would repeat it mentally in the target language. So that way I always had the echo of first actually saying it, but then having the echo in my head of the target language. So I found that in itself was really useful for me as a language learner myself. And that is actually, those were the situations where I was able to actually produce language, even though I wasn't actually speaking it, but it gave me a social reference point as to, oh, this is where I could use it, or this is where I'm not using it well. And then I would go back to my teacher, and I would get feedback from him based on what I would tell him. This is how I use the language, and this is how I'm using it. That would give me a good reference point, and that is actually what helped me. Well, I think that's it. Oh, yes, and what kind of learning is involved in situations 2 and 3? It's more of a proactive learning, I see it, and more of a social learning. I find that is the most effective learning that we can have, and that where there's that, which is what I always tell my students, it's the kind of repetition. You don't want the methodical, monotonous, mind-numbing repetition where you just go through the words, repeat. You actually want to have the social repetition, where you naturally explain stuff and you naturally repeat, just as we repeat on an everyday basis in our mother tongue. So I find that is the kind of learning that's going on here in relation to vocabulary. All right, so these are my answers, and I'll see you around.